Hi, this is Phil Shapiro in Tacoma Park, Maryland. I have been reading a really interesting book that showed up on the new bookshelf at the public library where I work. Paying the Price. College Costs, Financial Aid, and the Betrayal of the American Dream by Sarah Goldrick-Rab. So Sarah Goldrick-Rab is a professor of higher education policy and sociology at Temple University in Philadelphia. And this book is really eye-opening. I thought I understood some of this topic until I read the book, and my understanding is a lot deeper as a result of reading the book. So her main thesis is that our college financial aid system is broken. The cost of college has risen exponentially in the last 20 and 30 years, and students receiving financial aid encounters huge stresses in paying their bills. Many drop out, and many suffer indignities that no human being should ever have to suffer. And so let me take a peek here at this book. Here's the author, Sarah Goldrick-Rab. She's written for the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and the Washington Post. She's been covered by Atlantic, Slate, and NPR. She founded the Wisconsin Hope Lab, the nation's first research laboratory aimed at making college affordable. So, this is the inside flap. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'll read just a bit. If you are a young person and you work hard enough, you can get a college degree and set yourself on the path to a good life. Right? Not necessarily, says Sarah Goldrick-Rab. And with Paying the Price, she shows in damning detail exactly why. College is too expensive, and the confusing mix of federal, state, and private financial aid leaves countless students without the resources they need to pay for it. You can read the rest on your own if you so care. You can stop this YouTube video. This is the back cover. I was really happy to see Diane Ravitch, who is very highly respected and very thoughtful, and same with the other folks here. So here's a quote I grabbed from the book that really struck me. Had the students in this study begun college in the year they were born, they would not have needed to borrow and simply could have worked at a part-time job year-round to cover college costs. Or had they borrowed, they could have worked only during the summer and focused entirely on school for the rest of the year. In 1990, an average student from a low-income family in Milwaukee paid roughly $4,500 per year after grants to attend that city's public university. But when our students enrolled in 2008, a similarly situated student paid about $7,460. Affording college, even for the poorest students, now required both work and borrowing. So I should explain, this whole book is based on a study, a very serious, formal, scholarly work that was started in 2008 with 3,000 college students in Wisconsin attending public colleges and universities and receiving financial aid. And so these students there were surveys and there were interviews with them, and the book has over 100 pages of footnotes. So it's a very serious work of inquiry into the funding of college and the experiences of those receiving the funding. Another little part of the book that grabbed me was the discussion of human capital and how in the United States our investment in higher education has brought huge benefits to society at large. Economists Claudia Golden and Lawrence Katz have linked these major investments in public education to a growth in human capital that enabled the United States to thrive as a global economic powerhouse. These results would not have occurred if only the wealthiest or even only the highest achieving students went to college. So the fact that we have a broad swath of society in the United States going to college, that means that these people can become contributing members of society and they can be the engine of our economic growth. Now, if they're not making it to the end of college, then the engine of our economic growth begins sputtering. This section really grabbed me. University of Wisconsin-Madison undergraduate Brooke Evans described what it felt like to be homeless while attempting to attend classes at the state's flagship university. Without a home, and without meals, I felt like an imposter among my brilliant peers. I was shamefully worrying about food and shamefully staring at the clock to make it out of class in time to get in line for the local shelter, when I should have been giving my undivided attention to the lecturer. So that really hits you over the head when you realize there might be a significant number of college students experiencing homelessness. That's not something we typically imagine, talk about, or understand, but it exists in not a small number. So that just shows you that the system is broken. Now, I found this book to be a hopeful book. It really is a hopeful book because it's shining a light on this topic, and the author does have suggestions of what we can be doing. One of the suggestions I liked was the extension of the federal school lunch programs to higher education. So the school lunch programs really helps working families. There really is no good reason I can think of that we don't extend that into the college years so that people who are college students don't have to experience hunger. And they can focus their attention on getting their studies done. So there's another passage here that really struck me that I'd like to read a bit, and I didn't scan this, but let me just share it with you. On page 55, following the rules. There are many rules affecting students' ability to get and keep financial aid. There are forms that must be filled out and signed, filed on time, and verified. Failure to keep up with these requirements can cause delays or even the loss of support. The amount of aid a student gets varies depending on where they attend college. So if they transfer, they must reapply. This affects many students each year, since today at least 1 in 3 students transfer school at least once. So the bureaucratic burden of receiving financial aid can be very high. It's like rolling a big boulder up a hill. And that burden is not encountered by those students not receiving financial aid. And those students and the rest of society might not fully comprehend how difficult that burden is, but this book really shines a light on that. The book has over 100 pages of footnotes, so this was a very scholarly work, both the book and the study. I got curious to look at the Twitter for the author. Here's the Twitter account of Sarah Goldrick-Rab, and here is something I noticed. So I work in a public library. I try to notice things. You can understand things by noticing them. Look at how many people that the author is following. 7,000, more than 7,000. Now, I'm impressed by that. She likely chose these people carefully. She's not following anybody. And the number of people that person is following, that is an indication of how much potential knowledge and wisdom is flowing into her mind. She already is very astute as a researcher and a writer, but she's becoming even more astute. So that really impressed me. Some people are impressed by the number of followers a person has, but I am impressed by the number of people a person is following and the quality of the people they're following. So if they're following quality people, that's a very good reflection on the person. So if you'd like to send feedback about this book review, here's how you can contact me. I'm making this book review on my Linux laptop, which is using free software, Linux Mint. And I'm using simplescreenrecorder, a free screen recording program. I'm using Kamoso, K-A-M-O-S-O. That is the little webcam software, and my Logitech webcam. I love Logitech webcams. They're so clear. And they work with Linux really well. So this is Phil Shapiro. If your public library doesn't have a copy of this book, please ask them to buy it. It's really worth it. It's really worth that people come to a greater understanding of this topic because there really is some hope. There's some hope if we figure this out, we can get it right. This is an interesting book. I found it a hopeful book.